Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. And this is going to be a review of last night's edition of Dynamite, which was the February 19th edition. And last night's Dynamite was from the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. And I gotta say, last night's Dynamite, I thought it was a really good show. Really enjoyed it. It was awesome. Loved it from beginning to end. And the show felt like a pay-per-view, which was awesome. And in my opinion, this was the best Dynamite of the year so far, in my opinion. But last night on Dynamite, we saw a tag team number one contenders battle royal to determine who will face Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Or it could have been, the Lucha Brothers, because the Lucha Brothers had a match earlier in the night. They got to face Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page, where the titles were on the line. So it was that whoever won the Battle Royal would be the number one contenders to face whoever for the AEW World Tag Team titles at Revolution. And then we had Kris Statlander versus Shanna. Jon Moxley versus Jeff Cobb, and the match that we all been looking forward to for weeks, Cody Rhodes versus Warlow in a steel cage match. Let's get on with the AEW Dynamite review. So Dynamite opened up last night with the tag team number one contenders battle royal to determine who will face Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, or could be the Lucha Brothers for the titles. And this was a pretty awesome battle royal. We had SCU in there, the Butcher and the Blade, best friends Chuck Taylor and Trent, and also Santana and Ortiz of the Inner Circle. Pretty much, all the AEW tag teams. But the match began. All the tag teams jump into the ring. Santana, Ortiz, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver were just on the outside watching. And you had Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian head to the top rope. And they pretty much, took out everyone, which was cool. So Jack Evans went to the top. He did a front flip on the guys out there. They end up catching him, and they tossed him to the floor. And both guys, Angelico and Jack Evans, were eliminated. Private Party ended up sending T-Hawk out of the ring. So John Silver and Alex Reynolds finally got into the ring. They ended up attacking SCU. And then we see the Dark Order. Evil Uno was there. And gets on the mic. He asks SCU how interested it is that Christopher Daniels isn't at ringside with them. Actually, it was the Dark Order spokesman, not Evil Uno. And then he ends up saying that the Exalted One is near. And yes, the Exalted One is near, and he's going to delete AEW. Yes, the Exalted One is going to be Matt Hardy. Because there was a picture that Matt Hardy posted on his social media, and it was showing him watching last night's Dynamite. And just right from there, Matt Hardy's going to be signing with AEW, and he's going to be revealed as the Exalted One. So, pretty much we all know it's going to be Matt Hardy. And also, during the match, you could also see Raven. I know some of you might remember Raven. He was, former WWF Hardcore Champion. He was sitting in the crowd, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, Raven might be the Exalted One." No, No, I don't think Raven's going to be chosen as the Exalted One. Like I said, it is Matt Hardy, without a doubt. So we had the Dark Order members. They ended up sending Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian out of the match. Then the Young Bucks then ended up sending John Silver and Alex Reynolds out of the match. And we then saw Scorpio Sky goes over the barricade, leaps over the barricade, takes out Stu Grayson. And Evil Uno was there, ducked the leap. And pretty much at the end of the match, we had the Young Bucks win it. We had Matt Jackson end up hitting a super kick to eliminate Ortiz. Guevara ends up getting to the match, ends up doing a springboard, and Matt ends up super kicking Guevara, which Guevara landed on his knees, I guess the wrong way. And he then Matt Jackson then clotheslined Santana out of the ring. There you go. The Young Bucks win the match. They will receive a chance at the World Tag Team titles against Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, or Lucha Brothers at AEW Revolution. So it was pretty predictable. I knew going into this Battle Royal, when I saw, the Young Bucks were in there, I'm like, yep, they're going to make the Young Bucks win it. But, I was right. I knew going into it that the Young Bucks were winning it. All in all, it was an awesome Battle Royal. We also had Orange Cassidy there, which he got a pop from the crowd. And there was a moment in the match where the bunny, Allie, comes over and she low blows Orange Cassidy, which was funny. But all in all, it was an awesome Battle Royal. Then we saw Kris Statlander versus Shanna, which Britt Baker came out for commentary during this match. And on commentary, Britt Baker ended up telling Tony Schiavone that she bought him a latte. So yeah, good for Britt Baker for doing that for Tony Schiavone. But Kris Statlander versus Shanna, it was one of the better women's matches here. I hope, I hope after this match, the women's matches, in the AEW Women's Division, hopefully it gets better, just from watching this match. But Kris Statlander, she's, one of my favorites. The whole alien gimmick that she has. So we had Statlander doing some elbows, some chops, end up delivering a kick to the face to Shanna. Shanna ended up kicking out of it, and then it went back and forth between the both of them. Statlander ended up delivering the Big Bang Theory to Shanna to score the win. So there you go. Kris Statlander ended up winning the match. Well, overall, it was one of the better women's matches so far. And then we saw Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone, he was talking with Nyla Rose, who was on the stage. Of course, Nyla Rose, the AEW Women's World Champion. So Tony Schiavone ends up congratulating Nyla on her win. Nyla Rose ends up saying to the crowd, "Oh, is that how you greet me?" Because the crowd was booing her. Nyla ends up saying that she should have been the first champion and the face on all the posters. She ends up saying it just makes her hungry. And when she's hungry, she breaks bitches. So Tony Schiavone ended up asking about Riho's courage to Nyla Rose. Nyla ends up ripping the microphone away from Tony Schiavone, and she ends up saying, "Forget that. She represents power, and that she's the queen bee in this hive." Nyla then proclaims she'll be a one-time champion because nobody can beat her. Then out comes Kris Statlander. Statlander ends up going to boop Nyla Rose's nose, but she ends up booping the title. So then we see Big Swole comes out, gets in Nyla Rose's face, and we see security and referees come out to break them apart. And the segment ends with Big Swole and Kris Statlander, having a stare down. Now it's basically how the segment ended, but this was a really enjoyable segment, promo that Nyla Rose ended up cutting. Really enjoyed it, and it looks like possibly going to get a triple threat, maybe women's match for the title, where it's going to be Nyla Rose versus Kris Statlander versus Big Swole. But who knows if AEW is going to do that? Probably they will, but that's my prediction. But really enjoyed this whole segment with Nyla Rose. And then we had Jon Moxley versus Jeff Cobb. Of course, this was Cobb's in-ring debut on Dynamite. And before the match, we had a recap of his debut from Dynamite last week. And Taz was on commentary for this match, which it's always great to hear Taz. And as soon as Jeff Cobb came out, we heard Chris Jericho's theme music play. And we heard Judas from Fozzy. So Jericho and Sammy Guevara, Jake Hager, they came through the crowd and they had tickets in hand. So each of them had a ticket and they were going to watch the match on the floor, the floor seats. So Cobb ended up starting the match, ended up delivering a overhead belly-to-belly suplex to Jon Moxley. And of course, Moxley had his ribs were taped. And he also got, he had a bandage on his elbow. And both Moxley and Cobb ended up on the floor. They ended up battling a bit on the floor. Moxley went back into the ring, leaps over the top rope to Jeff Cobb. And they both come back in the ring. Cobb ended up delivering a shoulder tackle to Moxley. And at the end of the match, we saw Jeff Cobb end up going to the second rope. He then delivered a suplex to Moxley, but Moxley ended up hanging on to Jeff Cobb for the 3 count. So there you go. Jon Moxley ended up winning the match, which, this is, of course, Jeff Cobb's first loss. It was his in-ring debut, and then they give him a loss, which, we know why, because they got to set up Moxley and Jericho, hype up Moxley up, for him to face Jericho at Revolution. And, post-match, the Inner Circle ended up coming into the ring. They were beating away on Moxley. And out came Dustin Rhodes. Dustin Rhodes comes into the ring, starts taking out the Inner Circle. And then the lights go out. The lights go out in the arena. And who do we see? A returning Darby Allin. So Darby Allin comes out, gets a big pop from the crowd, and he ends up skating down to the ring. Brings a skateboard, into the ring, swings the skateboard, at everyone there, at, Hager, Jericho. Hager ends up going for a low blow. Darby Allin ends up blocking it with, the skateboard. Jeff Cobb comes in from behind, ends up suplexing Darby Allin, but Darby Allin ends up landing on his feet, which was awesome. And Jon Moxley comes in from behind, delivers the paradigm shift on Jeff Cobb. And then we see Darby Allin launches Sammy Guevara into the ring steps. And so Jericho, was in the ring, and he realizes that he was in the ring alone with Jon Moxley. So Moxley and Jericho start swinging away, of course, set up hype for the match at Revolution. So Moxley ends up whipping Jericho into the ropes, but Jericho ends up bailing out to the floor and goes up the ramp. Crowd starts booing at Jericho. But that was what happened, post-match. But really happy to see Darby Allin back. He's been out for, weeks, since Sammy Guevara ended up hitting him with his own skateboard, with Darby Allin's own skateboard in the throat. So it was good to see Darby Allin, return. It was a surprise, which was cool. And that pop that he got was very awesome. And then we had Hangman Page and Kenny Omega versus the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix. And this was a awesome tag team match. The crowd was behind these guys. They were enjoying this match. Crowd was hot throughout this whole match. So the match started with Hangman Page and Phoenix. And Hangman Adam Page ended up delivering a big boot to Phoenix. Page ends up tagging in Omega. Omega starts delivering double kicks to Phoenix. Hangman ends up coming back into the match. Phoenix, lays a bunch of chops at Hangman Adam Page. And we had Hangman Adam Page lifts Phoenix up, suplexes him, with the bridge. Pentagon ends up delivering a double stomp to break up the pin count. So it was just a very back and forth match between these guys. And we had Pentagon. We saw Pentagon later on. He leaps off Phoenix's back and delivers cannonballs on Kenny Omega, which was really awesome. And then we had, at the end of the match, we had Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page delivering the Buckshot Lariat V-Trigger combination on Phoenix, because Phoenix was going to deliver the Phoenix was going to escape, the one-winged angel from Kenny Omega. And then that's when Page and Omega end up delivering the Buckshot Lariat V-Trigger. So there you go. Kenny Omega and Hangman and Page win the match. They retain the AEW Tag Team titles, World Tag Team Championships. Yeah, titles were on the line here. So we're going to get Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, versus Kenny Omega and Hangman and Page for the titles at Revolution. So that's going to be a really good match between those guys. It's going to be awesome. Looking forward to it. And I know the crowd will be hot for that one. But overall, this was an awesome match. Loved this match from beginning to end. And the crowd reaction, the crowd was hot during this whole match. Made it more awesome. And then we had the main event. Cody Rhodes versus Warlow in a steel cage match. And this was the first ever steel cage match on Dynamite or in AEW And I liked how the steel cage looked. Reminded me a little bit of how the steel cage from back in the day in WWE looked like, mixed in a little bit with a Hell in a Cell looking cage, which was awesome. I liked how the look of the cage was much different than what we see WWE do with their cage matches. But Warlow made his way out, of course, with MJF. Cody ended up coming out along with his wife Brandy and Arn Anderson. So the match started off with Cody delivering a high kick to Warlow's face. Did nothing to Warlow. And we had Warlow ends up dropping Cody, sending Cody into the cage. And then Dynamite went to commercial. Of course, we had the split screen where we see what's going on in the commercial. And during the split screen, we saw Warlow. He was still beating up on Cody. He ends up busting Cody open. Cody was bleeding. And Cody ended up delivering a springboard cutter. Ended up delivering 10 punches in the corner to Warlow. And Warlow ends up grazing Cody's face on the cage, and Cody was still bleeding. So Warlow sends Cody into the cage door. The cage door flies open. And so Arn Anderson is there. MJF ends up walking over, and he barks at Arn Anderson to hit Cody in the face with the cage door. So Arn ends up thinking about it while MJF is just barking orders at Arn. And Arn Anderson then swings the door into MJF's face. And then we see in the ring, Cody ends up delivering a lariat to Warlow, tosses Warlow into the cage, and hits a spinning power slam, which was awesome. And then we see MJF. MJF ends up handing over his Dynamite ring to Warlow. And Warlow has the ring on. Cody ends up low blowing Warlow. He takes the ring off of Warlow and puts it on himself. So MJF, wasn't happy about that. MJF starts climbing up the cage. Brandy ends up coming over, whacks MJF with the chair to MJF's back, which doesn't really do anything to MJF. So MJF ends up climbing back down. He's arguing at Brandy Rhodes, and Arn Anderson ends up sending MJF into the crowd over the barricade. Cody, back in the ring, then hits crossroads to Warlow, goes for the cover. Warlow kicks out at 2, and Cody ends up looking up at the top of the cage, and he climbs the cage, and he gets to the top. And this was awesome right here. I loved what Cody did here. Cody then delivered a moonsault off the top of the cage onto Warlow. And that moonsault finisher right there from Cody off the top of the cage was amazing. It was phenomenal, in my opinion. I mean, go back and watch that moonsault that he hit from the top of the cage. It was great. It was perfect. So he got the moonsault onto Warlow from the top of the cage, went for the cover. There you go. Cody ended up winning the match. And that was how Dynamite ended last night. But it was a really awesome cage match. It delivered. It led up to the hype, in my opinion. And there was a point where I read in the article that Cody got on the mic after Dynamite went off the air, and he ended up saying that this might have been the best Dynamite, this might have been the best Dynamite show, of the year. And I have to agree with Cody. This show was awesome last night. Loved it from beginning to end. It was the best Dynamite of the year, in my opinion. But anyways, that's it for the AEW Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. And definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And, the next video will be the SmackDown review. And possibly there will be a SmackDown review tomorrow night. So, hoping to get it up. But anyways, that's it for this video. And till next one, I'll see you all later.